Hello, Natural You listeners. Today I have a very interesting chap on with me. His name is Charanpreet Singh. I first met Charanpreet at a seminar and I was really intrigued. This guy came in and he had these different robes on and sort of turban on his head and a big beard, and he was carrying a cool thing in his waistband. And so for me, culturally, it was just like, wow, I haven't met someone like this before. So I was very intrigued. But what intrigued me more, other than his attire, was his inquisitiveness. So he was always asking questions, wanted to know why, was always probing a little bit deeper. And every time I've met him and he's come to look at my practice and we've had other chats, he's always been really inquisitive. And I find that endearing, and I'm also impressed by it because so many of us just look at something and just make up our own minds about what might be happening. But he's always able to just sort of push forward and actually ask some questions and put people on the spot. So today's my turn to put him on the spot. So welcome, Charanpreet.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, awesome. I'm so glad you agreed to sign up. I know you were a little bit trepidatious to come on and weren't quite sure that you'd fit the bill, but I'm really happy that you're here. We have people from one of my aims with setting up the Natural You was to have people from all walks of life tell us about their story so that we can learn from each other and find out perhaps different ways at looking at the world and particularly our interaction with nature. So can you tell us a little bit broadly, for someone who doesn't know very much like myself, what is a Sikh and how do you become one, and some more information for us when we see a guy walking down the street wearing robes, a big beard and a turban?
So, Sikhi was started by Guru Nanak Dev Ji. So, a Sikh is a disciple. It means a student, and a student has a teacher. So, in the Indian tradition, we have a gurus. So, a guru is someone who takes you from gu, which is darkness, to ru, which is light. So, someone who enlightens you with knowledge. And so, Guru Nanak Dev Ji was the first Sikh guru. And how to become a Sikh? Well, there is an initiation process, and in the olden days, there would be various ways of doing it. So, Guru Nanak Dev Ji, at that time, the teacher would dip their toe into some water, and that would become Amrit, so the nectar of immortality. It would give you liberation from this world. And at the time of the 10th Guru, the Sikhs needed to militarize in a formal fashion. So another ceremony was introduced called Khande de Bahul. So Khanda is a sword, so it's baptism of the sword. So they created they put water into an iron bowl and they stirred it with the Khanda, with the double-edged sword, and they repeated some mantras, so some prayers, whilst they were doing that. And what happened was a few drops fell on the floor and some little birds came and drank it, and then they started attacking eagles and falcons. And so this was overseen by the Guru's wife, and she said, we can't have our beloved Sikhs become like this, to just be merciless killers. So then she put in sugar crystals, patasse, into it, so that the Khalsa will be fearsome warriors, but also be sweethearts as well. And so that's the initiation process of how to become a Sikh or a Khalsa, which is what was made in 1699 by Guru Nanak, by Guru Gobind Singh Ji. And I mean, the tenets of the faith are pretty similar to other faiths, but essentially living an honest lifestyle and repeating the name of God. And God has infinite names, so it's a personal thing to each person. But we've been given a mantra by Guru Nanak Dev Ji called the Waheguru mantra, and it consists of 4 different names that were repeated in 4 different epochs. So we have Vava, which is Vasudev, we have Haha, Hari, we have Gagga, Gobind, and Rara, Ram. Those 4 letters are combined together to make Vaheguru. And the aim of our life is to reconnect with the creator. So imagine the creator is an ocean and we're drops in the ocean. Uh, we've been separated and we've become muddied and dirtied. And our aim in life is to remove the impurities from ourselves so we can merge back with the creator. And it's all a play. This is a great drama that's been created, and we have to see through the veil, the illusion of this world, and see beyond it. And I could go on forever, really, but the aim of the life is to merge and connect.
Yeah, I'm writing down questions as you go. Um, First of all, can you just I love the idea of the hearted warrior, the sweet and powerful. Why was there a need to militarize? Was the group under threat, or what was the reason that you needed to do that?
So yeah, the Sikhs did come under threat, and but it wasn't just the Sikhs. So we have five evils, you could say, or five. We call them the Panch Jor, the five thieves. So we have Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, and Ahankar. And Kam is desire or lust. Krodh is anger. Lobh is greed. Moh is attachment, and Ahankar is ego and pride. And so these are the things that distract us from connecting with the creator. And so it's a universal thing. We all experience these things. It's not particular to us and the Indian subcontinent. These things happen all over the world. But the Sikhs were initially extremely meditation focused. You could argue that the militarization happened pretty much from day one, but there came a point where we were directly attacked. So the fifth guru, through some evil machinations, was essentially gave martyrdom. They were innocent, and so from that point forward, the Sikhs had to step up against tyranny, because when innocent people are dying, it's a cowardly act to just sit by and do nothing. And so our gurus empowered us to fight against tyranny, and so it just naturally had to happen. And in India, there was a tradition for sadhus, for holy men, to renunciate, to move away from their families and go to the mountains and go to the forests. And the problem with that is they're only focusing on themselves. And what the guru wanted us to do was to live amongst society, but also be detached from it. And when we live among society, we bear witness to the evils that are perpetrated as well. And so the Khalsa especially was created to fight against tyranny, but remain within society, not to remain separate from it, but to be embedded within it.
Brilliant. And is that the reason that you carry a knife? I know that in the UK, you're not really allowed to carry a fixed blade knife over a certain length. But you, in your kind of waistband, you carry a knife. I don't know what the thing is, and you also showed us your big kind of ceremonial sword. Is that the reason why? Because you are allowed to, because it's your sort of religious tradition, or does that arise at the same time as part of this militarization? Is that you need to be prepared?
Yeah, so when Guru Gobind Singh Ji created the Khalsa, we were given five symbols. So Ges, which is our hair, unshorn, so not cut at all. We have a Ganga, which is a comb, which represents cleanliness, but then we have to comb our hair twice a day. We have a Kushera, which is the undergarments, which are practical, but also represent chastity as well. We have a we have the Gurban, which is the sword,
Yeah.
and the sword def- is to fight tyranny and use it in defense of innocence. So it's not something that we just brandish as and whenever we want to. We have to really, really think about. The Guru told us that it's only righteous to draw the sword when all other means have failed. So you try diplomacy, you try and work things out, and when there's no other means to resolve something, then that's when it's righteous to draw the sword.
And are you, as part of your initiation,
Yeah.
is that something that you taught how to use and use effectively? Was it just ceremonial?
No, well, we should be taught how to use it, but we do have a kare, so Gatka kara. So Gatka is actually more of a ceremonial display art, although it can be used in a practical sense. But if you want to learn the Shastra Vidya, the science of weaponry, it really is upon yourself to go and learn that. But the culture is, in the 1600s, 1700s, the culture was very different back then. So coming here into the UK, we're building the infrastructure to do those sorts of things. And some people might think, well, why do you need to do that? But we have martial arts dojos, so in the same way, learning hand-to-hand combat, hand-to-hand weaponry, and then also projectile weapons as well. It's all encompassing in terms of what we should be doing. So 100%, it should be something that
Yeah, as a martial art, right? It's like it can be done purely as an art form, as an exercise part, but they're all rooted in some kind of philosophy and in some sort of defense system.
yeah. And this is the fifth K, by the way, the iron bangle, call it gara.
Okay. Wow. Wow. And do you get those at certain times during your initiation? And I presume, the families will bring you through that, through those traditions, or is it done at certain times, or how does that work?
Well, I can speak from my own experience. So I joined the Gatka Akada. So I joined the martial arts academy when I was very young, and I wasn't initiated at this point. And you learn over time. So you learn the discipline, you learn the ways, the traditions, you learn the code of conduct. And then when I felt I was ready, I became initiated. And at that point, I I was fully formed in a sense where I would always wear the 5Ks with me. Prior to that, it was kind of as and when, or I would keep it very, very low key. And now I do it more openly, because I'm in the complete form now.
Yeah. Yeah. And going up through school and things. So did you wear the school uniform, or how did that all work for you?
Yeah, so as a kid, I just wore what other kids wore. So I wore normal school uniform. Um, we lived like a largely, a very normal life. And growing up, religion and spirituality was an important aspect of my life, but it wasn't pushed upon me. And there was no formal way of it being introduced to me. Like I wasn't taught, specific things as such. I took it upon myself to learn those traditions over time.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's what's kind of what I alluded to when we started, that sort of self-learning, self-development, kind of taking it upon yourself to ask questions, to go and instead of being taught. I mean, obviously you're open to learning things and trying new things, but there's the way I see you interact is quite self-directed, like you wanting to learn, you wanting to understand. I'm wondering if that's where that came from.
Yeah, I've always been really inquisitive. I like to know why. Not just what, but why, and everything about it. And I found religion, organized religion, really quite boring when I was younger. It was there was no one to look up to. There was just like these overweight guys in our in the gurdwaras, the temples, who were out of shape, and they're just like clergymen. They're boring.
Mm-hmm.
It was once I actually started looking at our ancient traditions, I was like, wow, this is amazing. But during high school, I really enjoyed learning about religion, Christianity, Islam. I mean, I find Catholicism, the architecture, I find it fascinating. Zoroastrianism, the the monuments that they have, the Egyptians, the Mayans, I find it incredibly fascinating. And then I came back to where it started, and I really started to like I'm my own not my own I'm like the worst critic. I'll play devil's advocate. I'll tear apart everything in my religion to scrutinize it and think, and if somebody was to question what I do, I want to be ready to be like, this is why we do it. And, yeah, like just to be like, I'll really, really get down to the nitty gritty details.
Yeah, and it's part of being the way I see it is part of being well armed, So just like you need to be armed physically,
Yeah,
you need to be armed intellectually too, right? To say,
absolutely.
right, if there's I need to be able to defend my position
Yeah,
or approach. So it kind of speaks to that too, I think.
yeah.
That's fascinating. And I remember once having a chat to you about a community project you were involved in,
Hmm.
which was, I think it was growing. Was it a small farm or something like that? And that was organized by people in your community.
Hmm.
I just really like the sound of it. And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So it's called the Love Farm. It's based in Abingdon, Oxford. The letters represent, so L for local, organic, voluntary economies, and so it's something that's open to everyone. But the group that I'm from, the Nahangs, it's largely led by a group of Nahangs, and so our thing is to have power in the people. So during COVID, supermarkets were empty. People were in a flurry to just get everything, and they were panicking. And so we wanted to create something. And this we started this a long time ago, and I wasn't even part of the founding of it. But it's really having the power. We have autonomy, and this is how we get sovereignty over our lives if we're empowered. So growing our food is a major part of that. So being organic as well. When you leave nature to just do its thing, it does it the right way. We've introduced pesticides and all in the name of profit, ultimately. And so those pesticides are causing infertility and, all sorts of health issues. Voluntary, so it's about service. So no one's paid to be there. Um, it comes from the people loving the vision and wanting to donate their time, and everyone benefits. And then the economy side of it is, so we want to be able to create that system across the UK, worldwide. There's no limit really, where it's an economy in itself. People come together, they grow food, and then you can share that food as well. So I don't know if you've seen The Walking Dead, but there's a zombie apocalypse, and then you have these towns sprouting up, these communities, and they trade with each other. So it's that sort of thing, and we can bring the power back into the people and
So
away
it's
from the
so
corporations.
it's based on a sort of on a trade kind of system. So there's no you don't have any kind of like currency yet or some nominal token. You don't have any tokens. It's just a straight trade. I suppose at the moment is it just one group, or you have other groups that are starting to trade, or is it just kind of local at the moment in Abingdon?
It's very local at the moment, but it's not just a bartering system. Like we utilize everything, so they've begun now to start selling like apple cider vinegar, and what that does is the money that's made from that then funds further projects as well. So
Mm.
we live within society. Money makes the world go around, money makes things move, so we employ everything at our disposal.
Energy in motion, right?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, it just sounds like such a cool such a lovely idea. And if at the end of this, if you could just please send me some details on that, and I'll put that in the show notes because I know that's
So
going to resonate with lots of people who listen to this as nature-oriented people, and a lot of people love gardening. And for those people who don't have access to that, being part of a community or even creating your own on the same precepts, and that would be really good. Sounds like a wonderful template you have there. So I really love the idea. Um, and while we're talking about nature and how nature knows best and leaving nature alone, how would you say a six approach or connection with nature? So some religions were told that you're in charge of nature and you're there to sort of dominate it and look after everything else. and in others it's like, well, you're just on the same level and you just need to work together and honor every blade of grass. Um, how how do you see your religion um, and its connection or interaction with nature?
So, in terms of sentient beings, the human life is given the highest position. We can do things that no other species can do. So, in terms of like our the overall picture, like we do occupy the highest position. But also like, so in the very first prayer within our holy text, so Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, the very first prayer in there is called Japji Sahib, and at the end there's one line, Pavan Guru Barni Pita Mata Tarat Mahat, and that Pavan Guru means the Guru is the air, Barni Pita means water is the father, and Mata Tarat Mahat, so the earth is the great mother.
Mm.
So right at the beginning, these positions, these great positions are given to the elements, and we're created from these elements. We
So
don't
how could you disrespect the soil? If that's the mother, or
exactly.
disrespect or pollute the air if that's the father, and the water is the spirit. Yeah, that's if you're looking at that level, it's, as a grounding point. You're not gonna want to mess it up at all, are you?
Yeah, exactly.
And I suppose, does life spring from the union of those three?
Well, there's five elements. Um, so we have fire and we have ether as well. I believe I'm not
Mm.
greatly knowledgeable on the specifics, but
Yeah,
these are the elements that create our soul, and these elements are energy, and energy is personified Shakti. So energy is personified as a female, the divine feminine, the great
yeah.
mother, and she has many forms. So weapons, money, the earth, a mother, a wife, a daughter. So knowledge, music. So all of these things are personified as a mother. So when we're looking at the overall picture, like we have to understand our part in the bigger cycle. It's all an interconnected web. And if a child disrespects the mother, the mother's going to tell the child off. And I think that's happened many times throughout history. And I think that we're just we're getting to the point where we're going to get a good telling off if we don't behave ourselves.
It's coming. It's coming. That's interesting. The different masculine and feminine elements within nature, and yeah. So you see yourself as kind of interconnected in all of that, and so that spirituality is indivisible from day to day existence.
Yeah, 100%. So one of the key parts of our faith is that everything emanates from one. So the very first word within our um, texts is ik, O, and God. Ik means everything emanated from one, and then O and God is the sound of creation. So everything emanated from a sound that was, I guess you could call it the Big Bang, and this explosion of energy,
Mm.
this cosmic egg, and from that everything was birthed. So you had nothingness before. You simply had the creator in their consciousness, in their soul spirit form, and they had a union with the mother, and then the mother gave birth. And so everything is we're all energy,
Mm.
and so we're all united by the fact that we all have all emanated from this singular source.
When you said emanated from sound, in my tradition in the Bible, it was like, um, in the beginning was the Word. You know, that is similar kind of thing, a sound, right? A word, something, um, from a consciousness. So I found that interesting, how many traditions have a similar ideas. probably coming from similar stories and ideas. That's fascinating. And Charanpreet, your work as a chiropractor, um, how do you see your first of all, you say your clothes are very practical, and I'm kind of worried they look quite loose. How does that work when you're working with clients and things like that? Is it very easy and free? So that's just a technical, practical question, and then the second question is more at a philosophical level. How does your personal philosophy intersect with your practice philosophy?
Okay, so in terms of the clothing, it for me it's just incredibly practical. So it's just very loose. It doesn't get in my way. I've got quite a high metabolism, so I actually really like the cold weather. So there's good ventilation for me, but that's just a more of a personal thing. It doesn't impede me in any way whatsoever. So I really enjoy being able to live life my way authentically, and I haven't been inhibited in any way thus far. I won't let anything get in my way, but everyone around me has been very, very supportive, so I'm very thankful for that. And in terms of how it relates to chiropractic, I mean, chiropractic to me is incredibly scientific, and so it's quite baffling when you hear about people saying, especially 100 years ago, that it's quackery. Like, no, it's not. It makes perfect sense. The nervous system controls every other part of the body, and if we can remove interference, the body will just work better. And I think so. So much of chiropractic, like I see chiropractic as like the religious branch of what I already believe. Sorry, the scientific branch of what I already believe. It deepens my connection with spirituality rather than takes me away from it. I don't look at science as telling me how there isn't a creator. I just marvel at the creation. It really, really deepens my connection. And so many of the so much of the philosophy of chiropractic, so take no credit, take no blame, that's like, it's like an anti-ego mechanism that's inbuilt within chiropractic. You're there to serve. um, Things take time, and yeah, sorry, I've kind of lost my train of thought there, but
No, you bang. I think you. No, no, I love your train of thought. I think the way you said that science deepens your connection with spirituality, not detract from it, because you see that as part and parcel of everything, and it's just a an explanation of the why that you mentioned earlier. Like, why does it work that way? It doesn't change the way you understand the overall governing precepts, and you see that, and they you serve in a certain way, and see life unfolding in a certain way, and the why that you're looking for and the questions you're asking in a very scientific way are giving you clues as to how and why that works. It's not doesn't detract from the overall picture. So I think that makes perfect sense to me. And I had never considered the take no take no credit, no take no blame as an anti-ego mechanism, but that's exactly what it is. So yeah, fascinating. And are there any other kind of bits from chiropractic that you feel really blend really nicely with your life philosophy?
yeah, so the whole thing about connection. So spirituality, religion, and it all wants you to connect, connect with the creator. And within Sikh philosophy, so the creator is to be found within.
Mm.
And so, for example, we can be living on the outside quite a comfortable life, pleasurable, and all the great things. We can have fancy cars, we can have a lovely family, but we can be horribly miserable. We can be very, very sad and lonely as well. And so that just shows you that the connection that we need ultimately is the connection inside of us. And so that's what chiropractic is. Chiropractic is you connecting with yourself. And so it doesn't get rid of stresses in life and the bad stuff in life, but you're able to be more resilient to it. And so we have a scientific way of looking at things, but ultimately, when it comes down to it, it's you connecting with your higher self, with your truest self. And one of the other things that's greatly important within my faith is sangat. So sangat means congregation. And so I wanted to be part of something, and I didn't choose to be a chiropractor. It really was a case of chiropractic found me. It chose me. Um,
Tell us the story. How did that happen?
so, well, my mother was my biggest influence when it comes to healthy living and just my worldview. So we grew up going to yoga festivals and mind, body, and spirit shows, and like these conventions where there'd be like organic food and crystals and all sorts of weird and wonderful things. And so I had this background just being around all of this stuff. I didn't really pay attention to any of it as a youngster, but it was there, it planted some seeds. And I had a good childhood. We went traveling a lot, and I can't complain about my childhood. But when I got to college and university, everything just felt really empty. And I started accounting. Studied that for 2 years, but nothing really clicked. I thought there's got to be more to life than this. It's just so mundane. And my mother suggested chiropractic, and her thing was this: you get to help people. You spend like 2 minutes with them, click click, and you get money. And she said, look, mctim money. Since
McTim
I'm a
money.
mctim. Yeah. So I was like, okay, why not? It fits in with my personal philosophy, homeopathic medicine and flower remedies and all sorts of weird and wonderful things. It's all about the body being able to heal itself in a natural method. And so chiropractic, I didn't even really know what it was when I'd started the course. I just knew that you get to help. It's a health profession and you get paid well if you do good. So I went for it. And the thing that really, really stuck, I probably would have quit if there wasn't philosophy in chiropractic. It would just be the same as physio and osteo, but because we have the philosophy. And the thing that really stuck out to me was that people were so willing to suffer for chiropractic. You'd be ridiculed, vilified, you'd go to jail, you name it, but people, yet they still stuck with it. They were willing to go through all of that. Why? It begs the question why, and that really interested me. And I haven't really gone deep into the philosophy. I think I know enough where I'm certain of my path, and slowly over time I'll build on that. But yeah, and it reminds me of my own faith, where people were cut by their joints into little pieces. They were burnt alive, they were boiled alive, they were sawn alive. You name it, all sorts of atrocities that the Khalsa went through, but they did it for love. They did it because they were so in love with this path that they followed, and I saw that within chiropractic as well. And I suffered a lot going through the whole educational process, but I knew that at the end it would be worth it. And I really found like I really feel like I found my tribe in chiropractors. I get to be around really awesome people who are rebellious in their nature. We rebel against what society programs us with, and we say, we forge our own path and our own destiny. And yeah, that was the philosophies played a huge role. It pretty much is the reason why I'm a chiropractor, and because it is such a parallel between my faith and chiropractic, that I
and
love it so much.
and what a blessing to be able to have that, because I know there are certain people who practice in healthcare settings, and particularly I'm going to say more kind of scientific mechanistic type models, and they might be quite spiritual people, but they aren't allowed to kind of bring that into their work. And it's almost kind of poo-pooed. I remember reading I think it was a low back pain book, Kirkcaldy Willis, I think it was, and he had a section in one of the last chapters which was on prayer, and he was saying, like, we should be praying with our patients, and this is, but it was not looked at in the book. Everything was all on the mechanical stuff, and how people aren't actually encouraged to bring their philosophy into practice. And so how cool for you that you were able to find that synchronous elements from your religion, your faith, and bring that into the philosophy. And that's actually one of the things I really love about the chiropractic philosophy, is that it is so broad. The philosophy is so broad that you could be from pretty much any faith, and it'll still fit, and it's not in opposition to. I think that's a wonderful thing about the chiropractic philosophy, and people who dismiss that, I think, are sometimes dismissing part of their own faith, and they're not recognizing that maybe that's could be more powerful if they brought their own beliefs, not to tell people what to do, but to incorporate them into the how and why you do things.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It allows me to practice my faith in a secular fashion. It's not secular for us. This is deeply spiritual, but to the rest of the world, it's a health profession. But I get to practice my faith. I get to serve people.
Yeah, and you connected with those people and serving, and but you're not preaching to them. If you were telling them chiropractic philosophy and how to look after their bodies and what to do, that falls totally in line and not against your principles. Where for some other people there might be some conflicts there in other practices. So I think that's wonderful. Charanpreet, it's been really a pleasure talking to you and educating me, and I'm sure some of our listeners who don't know much about being a Sikh and your views and how they work in reality and in practical sense, and how you guys are kind of in the world but not of the world, but still really interactive. And I love the idea of the love garden, and how your work interacts, and how you guys view nature. So that's wonderful, and I just really appreciate you coming on. You were not so sure about coming on, so I just really appreciate you stepping up and just sharing your story with us. It's been fascinating.
Thank you so much for having me, Tim. It's been a pleasure. And I just want to end by saying, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. And that means that the Khalsa belongs to the Creator. We are the Creator's slaves. And victory goes to Waheguru. All victory goes to the Creator. Thank you so much, Tim.
Cool, man. I'll see you around, pal.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks for listening to my chat to Charanpreet. I certainly learned a lot about Sikhism and just different ways of viewing the world. And I think we can all do more of learning different cultural ways and different understandings to broaden our ideas on ourselves and nature. If you have someone in mind that you think would be a great idea to have on the Natural Use, please drop me a line, hit the fan mail button, or send me an email through the links. And hopefully we can get some more interesting people on like Charanpreet. Thanks for listening.